Welcome to another episode of From Another Zero. Hello, I am Alejandra Enciso Dardashti, recording from the Tijuana-San Diego border, formerly Mexican territory, and recognizing Kumeyaay territory. So we're going to be doing that from now on. We are learning. I'm so grateful for our listeners. We just started in June, and we have people from New York, from Boston, from London. We have Dominican Republic. We have people listening all over the globe, and I love it. And I want to listen more from you. I would love if you would leave us DMs on our social media at From Another Zero, zero with number, or on Facebook, From Another Zero, zero with number, our YouTube channel where you're watching us now, if that's your preference on YouTube. And a reminder that each podcast episode that drops, the Zoom call or video of that episode goes live 2 weeks after or so. Today, I am talking to, let me look at my notes here. Today, I'm talking to producing director Eric Keen-Louie. He is the producing director of the La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego, and we are going to talk about their innovation series, Fortaleza, which I did the pod view of Fortaleza in the last episode, along with Niceties of Moxie Theater. Podview is the new branch of From Another Zero. So we're not going to be doing reviews here. We're going to do pod views, which is a little bit of my POV of when I saw the work, the piece, the play, and let you all know what I thought. So I think that's the most democratic way of saying it and putting it out there. Yes, thank you again for the support. Again, we are a blog as well. This came out as a blog first, From Another Zero, zero with number, FromAnotherZero.com. We have surpassed the 100,000 mark. So we are very proud, very happy for that, because we are a small media outlet, small publication, small platform. So thank you for reading, thank you for sharing, thank you for listening. Yes, this is From Another Zero. Here we go. Hello, Eric Keen.
Hi, Alejandra.
Welcome to From Another Zero.
Thank you.
Everybody, he is the producing director at the San Diego La Jolla Playhouse. For our listeners that are not local, because we have some listeners that are not local.
That's
surprisingly
awesome.
So, yes. So I'm very excited. We work together at the Old Globe Theater, also in San Diego. And thank you for coming.
Of course.
Well, how are you, first of all? How are you?
I always answer, I'm doing okay given the circumstances. I'm surviving. You know, it's a weird time. It's a weird time. It's not just a weird time to be in the theater. It's a weird time to be a person of color in this country. It's a weird time to be a person in this country.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very
I'm surviving. Mm-hmm. Which I think is good. Occasionally thriving, mostly surviving.
I know, right? Because everything changes day by day, and you don't know what to expect, and then how you're going to roll with that punch, literally a punch. So, but I'm glad that you're doing okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So, for people that don't know, Eric started at the Playhouse not that long ago, right? How long have you been over there?
2 years ago.
Are you kidding me? 2 years?
2 years ago.
Oh my God. It's like
I think it's like this month, 2 years.
I
know. Where's the time gone?
I'm like, oh, he's been there for like 6 months, you know?
No, it's been 2 years.
Oh, so you were the associate artistic director at the Old Globe Theater.
I was.
And that happened for a while. You were there.
Yeah, I was at the Globe for 7 years. Mm-hmm. I started as associate producer and then moved into the associate artistic director position. And it was incredible. Yeah, I moved out not knowing a single person in San Diego. Mm-hmm. On my first day, the guy who hired me resigned and my life was thrown into chaos. But there's an incredible group of people who work over there that allowed me to figure out how to navigate without a boss for a year. And then Barry arrived, who I had worked with in New York, because I was at the Public Theater in New York for
Exactly.
3 years before I came out to the Globe. And so we had this really wonderful shorthand when he stepped in. And he really brought a lot of the work that he was doing there to the Globe, and I think really helped bring it in its own way, the Globe back to its roots of the theater that was really sort of serving the community. And it was an incredible time to be there during those first couple of years that he sort of arrived, and helping him and the institution really sort of shift focus in a really exciting way that I'm glad to see continues and thrives, of course, with Freedom there. And that whole arts engagement team, and the whole staff, I think, really embraced the idea of just reimagining, rethinking, and re-understanding sort of what a nonprofit does in the city.
Exactly. Oh, and everybody, my dear listeners, we have an episode with Freedom. So
you do.
If you haven't checked
I listened
that
to
out,
it. I listened to it, and I loved it. I recommend it. It's going to be much more exciting than the one we're about.
No. So yes, you were a New Yorker. You were a New Yorker.
I was born in Queens.
Yes.
Born in Queens, New York, from Long Island Jewish Hospital. My parents are from New York, have like relatively thick New York accents. I somehow lost it. And when I was 5, we moved actually to New Jersey because my dad's friend was selling his house, and we moved to a predominantly white little suburb in New Jersey. And we were probably one of the first families of color to move to that area. And it was, it was an adventure, certainly. And I think what it did for me, I think there were 2 things that sort of came about. One is I grew a very thick skin pretty quickly because, you know, as a kid, you get picked on. And my mom is a very no-nonsense person. And I remember getting picked on when I was a kid. And she went to the school and was like, you better fix this. But she also said to me, like, you need to fight your battles. I can't always be here. And so I think it's partially why I'm so outspoken. I think a lot of it comes from sort of that experience, and my parents are just outspoken people in general. And also I think it's really guided me to this career that I have now, where I really want to help shepherd voices that don't usually get the spotlight. Because certainly I didn't feel that growing up, not just sort of where I lived, but in theater, in the sort of movies and film and TV. I didn't see a lot of representation of people who looked like me. And so I've really committed my career to changing that, or helping to change that, and really lifting up those artists who are exciting, who are telling stories that are culturally specific.
And before we continue, I was telling Eric before we started recording that I live in an area that makes me feel like I'm in Brooklyn, and no offense to Brooklyn, but just it's like the tow truck and, you know, the garbage truck and the neighbor and the dog. So if you hear any of this, please, I'm so sorry. My mic didn't work. My headphones broke. I'm just like a mess. But I want to get this content out to you. So here I am. So
it's ambiance. It's ambiance.
Right?
Ambiance that adds to the conversation.
Totally. That's what I say, because then some podcasters are, I mean, obviously respectfully with everybody and to everybody, some get really intense and are like, you're not using the so-and-so microphone. You're not using the so-and-so platform. And guys, I'm sorry. I'm a rookie at this. I'm trying to get better, but I just want to do my show.
You also just need to say it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic, everybody.
That too. Exactly. Everybody. So Eric, you said that you committed your career, or you made that choice to see more of you represented on stage. Why do you think that is? I just want to ask this question. Why do you think that is, that we don't see each other represented on stage, and also in the high levels of
totally. I think that, at least if I can talk about theater for so long, I think has been seen as this thing that is sort of high art. Not that theater isn't high art, but I think this idea of high art comes with a lot of sort of baggage, especially racially, of sort of where does the money come from, who's paying, what's going to sell. And I think it's interesting over the last couple years, you've seen this shift start happening in the country. Because look, the demographics are changing. Like there's no going back. More diversity is on its way. It's already here, and it's only going to become a larger part of the population. And so, you know, you see something like Black Panther, you see something like Crazy Rich Asians, you know, you see these films that are coming out, and they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so I think this argument that diversity doesn't sell is completely false. And I think in the theater, though, doesn't have the budget because it's just smaller budgets, it's smaller houses, you can't go out as wide. It's not something that like an audience has necessarily been groomed and built and always welcomed into, that when you do a play of color, it's immediate like, okay, how do we get the Asians in? How do we get the Latinx people in?
Totally.
And you're like, but they weren't invited before, so why do they want to come now? And they may, but like you have to think about it from a more holistic approach. So I think, again, this argument that like diversity doesn't sell, we know is false. And so I think we need to now relook at our models and say, okay, so how do we get that audience in and keep them and want them to try it out? I mean, it's interesting. I think for us as an organization, I think partially because we do so much without walls programming, we've really said that we are an organization, we're not a set of buildings. So we look at our audience as the audience that is doing Portalays at home, you know, one of our digital pieces that David Reynoso did. Or we look at an audience that's coming in to see Cambodian rock band, you know, Lauren Yee's incredible play. You should have seen it. It's really good. Although it's about to go on tour, and I think it's going to be in LA whenever this all ends.
Whenever.
So go and see it. And you know, we look at an audience that it went to Liberty Station and happened upon something we were doing as part of our Without Walls Festival that was free and watched 30 minutes of it. Audiences aren't just the audience that's paying to buy a ticket to go see one of our shows in our theaters. Our audiences have to expand past that, you know? And I think once you get that name out and once you get the brand out, I think it becomes a different thing. Because I think there's this preconceived notion that theater is what the rich white people do.
Totally.
And that's part of that is because it has been that, but also part of that is because organizations haven't specifically countered that narrative. And I think we have to, if we have any chance of honestly of succeeding. When we come back, audience trends are going to look very different.
It's
not just because demographics are changing, but because of the pandemic. When we get back up and running, our older white audience might not feel comfortable coming back immediately. I hope they do, because I think when we reopen, we're going to reopen with a real safety plan, and when it is safe to come back. But I think we have to start appealing to the younger demographic, the more diverse demographic, and it starts with our programming, it starts with our messaging. And, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it today, but it starts with like things like our action plan to specifically say, this is who we are as an organization. I think people are smart. I think people are smart because they're marketed so much because of our phones. We like get so much marketing on our phones and social media. People know what companies are doing now. And I think you can't just talk the talk, you have to walk it.
Yeah. Well, and then you're talking, your phone is listening, and they'll throw it at you anyway, without you asking.
That's true.
So, I wanna layer some things here that you've been talking about, and give my POV because the WOW Festival, to start, for people who are not familiar, the Without Walls Festival is this amazing idea that La Jolla Playhouse came up with, where you had, yes, you had plays outdoors and, you know, stuff like that, but you also had a play in an elevator that was 10 minutes. You had a play in a car, and there was a line around the block with the cars just going in a line, and the actors were in the front and you were in the back, and you would like see the drama or whatever unfold. And it was very creative and wonderful. And there was other things, because La Jolla is I don't even know, because I'm awful in directions and geography, but it's close to the shore or whatever. So the weather, you never know. So we were in this play that was open, you know, open air or whatever, and there was grass, so you would have like the humidity come down and then the humidity from the grass come up, and we were all wet, and and the play was very surreal and heavy, and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. But why I'm saying this, it's because it adds to this experience, and it adds to the dialogue, and why are we doing this, and why is it. And I think that at arts, you know, in any sort of form, shape, need to do that, and it's more than just the entertainment value.
I think that's right. I mean, I think if the pandemic teaches us anything about just the idea of theater in general, it's the idea that we're bringing people together to experience and share something. And that may be something that's purely escapist, and that may be something that pushes you to really think, or it be something that makes you uncomfortable, or it may be a story from a culture you know nothing about, or a story from a culture you know everything about. Like, it's in its purest sense, it's the idea of bringing people together to share some sort of experience that's live, that's ephemeral. And I think it's what's been hard about this time, I think, for a lot of us who love theater and who work in theater, is that we can't bring people together.
Yeah.
And I'm deeply proud of the digital work we're doing. And I actually think we found a way to sort of try to have that tangible human experience, even though we're on a screen. And a lot of it has been really successful, but I do miss just sitting in a room with 300 or 400 or 500 other people watching performers create a story.
Yeah.
That's hard. It makes me sad.
It's very sad. And sometimes when you see some works through the screen that are really well made, it gives you that nostalgia, and you're like, oh, yeah, I miss it. I had so much fun watching this that I miss it even more.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when the pandemic started, I couldn't watch any taped live theater. It just made me so unhappy.
Yeah. It was like a withdrawal type of thing. It was very sad. And again, for people that don't know, La Jolla Playhouse, along with the Old Globe in San Diego, they're considered kind of sort of incubators for these big productions that then go to Broadway. And the Playhouse has been responsible for, you know, little works like Jersey Boys, or Come From Away, Rent, and stuff that people wouldn't even imagine that it came from there. And that's also really cool. And I think in San Diego, we're really proud of that.
It's great, yeah, and we're deeply proud of the work we're doing. I'm proud to have worked at the Globe and the Playhouse. And, you know, I mean, it's interesting, we were talking about sort of live theater and theater on tape. You know, my boss, Chris Ashley, right now is in New York City on Broadway in the theater, filming Diana without an audience for Netflix. And so,
they came out with that news.
Yeah, so they're literally, as we're talking, we premiered it. As we're talking, they're in a theater on Broadway without an audience filming it. It's gonna be the first, I think, show to stream that hasn't actually opened on Broadway. And so, you know, I think we're finding ways, right, to adapt. I think you're going to see more of that, especially after sort of the Hamilton thing. Yeah. I think you're going to see more theater on film, and I think that's great, because look, there's a large segment of the population that can't afford to buy a ticket. Even if it's $20 or $25, they can't afford to buy a ticket. So I'm glad we're getting the arts out in its own way, democratic way. And I hope that certainly I fell in love with theater because I saw Into the Woods on PBS when they aired it in great performances. That was the spark for me. It wasn't actually seeing a live piece of theater. I didn't see a live piece of theater until a couple years after. And so I'm excited for it, but I deeply want to get back into the theater.
Yeah, I mean, I when we talk about this theater through the screen, or however people want to call it, because there's this whole debate with Hamilton and movie and not theater, which I really don't care to discuss because whatever. There's been a subscription program called Broadway HD forever, where they've had recorded plays, musicals from all over. That you have them from London, from Argentina, and the States, obviously. So it is not new. It was just that people were not as familiar with it, and I think that also it's a tray of options, right? Where you're like Netflix or Broadway HD, and many people are like, well, Netflix or Apple TV or whatever, all of the streaming platforms out there. And then with the cultural thing, I always want to emphasize it, and it's not me criticizing it or attacking it. I just want to point out the differences. I am learning, guys. I am learning. Because the United States / American Caucasian way is very much, we see it that way. I'm a Mexican woman living in the States. I'm Mexican. I'm not first generation or anything like that. I moved to the States old. Well, I'm a border girl, so I was crossing back and forth. But it's a lot of labels. In Mexico, it's also for rich people. It's theater is seen that way as well. Like, oh, I can't afford that, or I'm not welcome there, or I look different from the rest of the people, or I don't have the clothing. I'm going to stand out in a bad way, and those types of things. But marketing wise, it's not to, the white people or the darker people or whichever different people. The marketing is not that way. It's just like a boomerang type of thing, or just you throw it out there and people will come. It's more of an economic aspect, I think, more of labels. And I think that with this pandemic and these conversations on the table, that also should shift, because like I said, in the last episode, every play should be talked about with everybody, and then people should have their choice and say if they want or if they don't want to see it.
Yeah, I also think you have to talk about yourself as an organization, because the plays come and go and the organization is a thing that stays, right? True. So we have something called the Playhouse Leadership Council, which has been in existence for a couple of years and is made up of a diverse set of community leaders who meet once a month to hear about, come see the work, talk to the artist, to learn about the work that we're doing on a regular basis, to then talk to their communities about us, not just this specific play at the theater. And I think that's the sort of big thing that we're trying to figure out how to do, because at the heart of it, we're a nonprofit institution that generates new work and serves the community. And so it's about getting people to feel an affection and a connection to the organization, not just the play. Right? So it goes back to the idea of the brand, like your brand, and how do you talk about your brand? Because the plays come and go, but you are the sort of the thing that sort of remains the constant. And I hope we can continue to do that shifting of sort of talking about the organization. And I hope other nonprofits can too, because it's how we're gonna, again, not to be doom and gloom, but it's how we survive.
Yeah, it's a big budget issue and a big money issue, and with all the furloughs and all this uncertainty, and you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know, and it is sad. So if people can help out and are listening, please reach out. And $1, $2, it really, really does make a difference. And speaking of this shift, the La Jolla Playhouse is part of this series called We Are Listening. That's part of other theater companies in the area, in the city. How's that been? You guys have a few episodes already.
It's great. Yeah, and I want to say it really started with Ahmed Dents at San Diego Rep. It is a series that they started and really felt like there was a need, and Ahmed really felt like there was a need in the community to talk with other, Black artists, Black art administrators who work in the theater about what they were feeling, what they were experiencing, what change they wanted to see happen. And we've been talking with the Rep and with the Globe about finding ways for us to partner together to sort of really help serve the field, serve the community. And this was one of the things we've talked about. And so, yeah, we've come on board as sort of co-presenter partners with them. Jacole Kitchen, our fabulous artistic programs manager and local casting director, is now co-hosting with Ahmed. I know Freedom is going to be hopping on board too. And so they're curating an incredible list of artists from around the country, just to talk openly about what's happening. I think we're all trying to understand how to navigate not just obviously the pandemic, but the real rallying cry for social justice change in the field and in the country. And it's exciting. It's a really great series. We're proud to be a part of it. And so I just get to be a cheerleader fan for Jacole on our end.
Oh, that's cool.
Because she's taken that thing and run with it with Freedom and Ahmed. It's great. It's really great. I'm excited about it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, more people. Again, the dialogue needs to be happening through all directions. And if the Rep did it, I mean, San Diego Repertory Theater is another nonprofit in the city. And in my opinion, they were doing really good stuff. And then for me, again, as a Mexican woman, there was a shift. That's how I saw it. And I think I don't want to, sometimes I don't know how to express myself and not sound awful or offensive or whatever, but I feel that with the Mexican culture, they started doing a little bit of blackface, and I'm not happy with that. But hopefully we'll have them on and we will create a dialogue and discuss, because it's not about attacking, it's about talking and discussing.
Yeah. Have you talked to anybody over there? You should.
I did. I sent a letter last year with the play Bad Hombres, Good Wives, that I thought it was absolutely awful because it highlighted or it glorified the drug cartels, which is very sensitive for us and other Latin American countries, like Colombia and stuff like that. And they also made fun of pedophilia with Catholicism, stuff like that. And something happens, us Mexicans, we were conquered like a lot of people by the Spaniards, and we have an identity issue that comes from generation to generation. And then when you move to the States and you're neither Mexican or American, which happens also with other cultures, you have that void. So when you try to fill it and you go to a play that's mocking or that is taking advantage of that lack of identity, there's a responsibility there. And it has to be assumed. And I think that they told me it was a satire and that I didn't understand the satire and that's what happens, but really that's not it. But that's my end. I'm telling you because you're my friend and
you're telling me. Yeah. No, and I know and love a lot of people over there. So after this podcast, I can definitely talk to you about some people who may be excited to talk to you on your podcast about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, this is an open space for everybody. I don't want it to be Alejandra and Friends, but it is the first season, so we have to start somewhere. So that's the other thing. And hey, we live in San Diego, so let's put San Diego more on the map, and not just because of its beaches, right? Agree. And its California burritos. So, okay. Let's also talk about the digital innovation night that's coming up. With the pandemic, everything has to have everything.
Yeah, I mean,
digital.
Yeah, our innovation night has been a fundraiser that we've been doing for years, and it's always been in person. And it's a way to bring sort of people who live in the sort of science and medical world together to celebrate art, and also to celebrate sort of the medical and science and innovation that's happening in our city as well. And it's incredible. And this year we're really honoring the companies that are on the front lines of fighting COVID. And you know,
Wow.
again, with going digital, everything sort of changes and opens up in their own way. And so I think we're allowed to now have a sort of international audience. And so the sort of headline event of the night is that we're doing a talk with some major scientists in the city, along with Chris Ashley, my boss, our artistic director, and Jeffrey Seller, who's the lead producer on Hamilton, about creating art in the time of COVID. And so I think talking about how are we shifting some of our art digitally, but also what does coming back to the theater look like post-COVID and during COVID? I'm really excited about that talk. I think it's gonna be a really fun event. We're gonna be premiering a new Digital Without Walls piece during it. And so that's taking place on October 14th. Tickets are on sale on the La Jolla Playhouse website,
Yes.
lajollaplayhouse.org. Branding.
ORG. Yeah, we're going to put it on the episode notes. We include all
Right.
those links on there. So you just scroll down and click, and there you are. And speaking of this innovation series, back in the day, the Playhouse did a play titled Ether Dome. And I don't know how it did. I don't know if it did well or not, but I loved it. I loved it. It was a straight play, but what I loved the most was the surrounding events that they did for it. And they did that. They did, like, I don't know, medicine students one night, or, you know, the scientists the other night. And I am not, you know, obviously a doctor, a scientist, nothing. And I was so excited with it all.
No, that's good. You know, it's funny. We did these focus groups at the end of a year ago. You know, that like I'm behind a wall, I'm behind a mirror, and I'm watching people talk. I love them.
Yeah,
fantastic. You learn a lot. You actually learn a lot.
Totally.
But one of the big things that I heard through all the focus group is that people come to the Playhouse to continue their education. I heard that from a lot of sort of the older subscribers, older audience members who come. And I think we really take that idea to heart, right? So I'm glad that you actually went to and knew about the surround events, because it's a big thing that we try to work on. Is the work doesn't just stay on the stage; it also ignites other conversations, be it about science and medicine, or be it about, you know, hopefully in the next couple of years, more social justice action, things like that. I think it's important. I think this art form is living and breathing, and you don't sort of just walk away from it when the lights come back up. Exactly. And so yeah, we try to do more events. We're trying to figure out how to do more content surrounding the things, how to get more local artists and sort of academics involved. And so yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I love that play. And it proves, I mean, you always say that when you're in theater, you're not like a point of reference, but this is a point of reference that it didn't have to do anything with me. And I absolutely loved it. I was obsessed with it. Yeah, I would even go online and see what's the next event. Let me see what they're doing, what they came up with. I was very excited. And let me see here. Well, let's talk about producing director. Tell us a little bit about what you do day to day and how that looks now. I don't want to laugh, but how does that look now?
Yeah, you know, the Jaime Castaneda was in the job previous to me, and he was associate artistic director. And he very much so is a really smart artist, a really wonderful director. And so when I came into the job, I said, I don't direct. Like I am an artist administrator. And so I think I need to come in with a sort of a little bit of a different mindset of how to approach the job. And I think what you really need is a producer. You know, we do 6 shows a year, but we also do Without Walls. We do so much development. You know, Chris directs giant musicals. There's a lot of attention that he needs to give to the artistic life of the theater with Gabe Green, who's our director of artistic development, of the sort of future and the planning and the work in the weeds with the artists artistically. And I was like, I need to be the one who's working with the production staff. I need to work with the marketing staff. I need to, you know, really keep an eye on the day-to-day producing maintenance of these things. And so that's why we changed it to producing directors. So my job is really overseeing the minutiae day-to-day operations of sort of our artistic producing vision and management of the department. So Chris can be forward thinking, you know, the one in the conversations with the artist, etc. And so my job in its own way sort of really reports to Chris, but really honestly reports to Chris and Debbie Buckhold, our managing director, because I'm bridging the gap, between management and artistic. And it's great. I love it. And, when we were in production, it was making sure everybody was doing okay, and keeping the productions that were in rehearsal, in tech, in previews, in performances sort of running smoothly with the rest of the staff. But also sort of thinking ahead and working with the staff to lay out the tracks for the plays that were coming. I think my goal is always to be ahead of the game, because I just want the artists to arrive and just do their work. I don't want them to have to worry about like, oh my God, we missed that deadline, because I was ahead of the ball on the deadline and was bugging them to get that deadline met, so we could do what we do. And I think, honestly, now it's still a lot of that. It's still a lot of laying the track work out for what's to come. We just don't know when that thing is going to come. And of course, we've been doing so much digital work, but I think when I return, there's going to be an even more importance on staying ahead of deadlines, because inevitably, I think all nonprofit theaters are going to have to do less. I think things are good. Things are going to get a little bit smaller. But the thing that we keep saying to ourselves, and conversations we're having with artists, is at the end of the day, we're there for the spoken word. We're there for the text. We're there to serve the play. And so where maybe in the past we would have gotten really excited and built a gigantic set for a little play, I don't know if we're going to do that. And truth be told, I don't think it's going to harm the play. I think we're going to find ingenuity in constraint. And I also think artists are going to come back with a renewed passion to just make the thing happen, that I'm really looking forward to. I think we're going to simplify things. I also think, look, we're looking at different producing structures. We've made the decision going forward for our subscription shows, we're only going to rehearse 5 days a week when we're in the rehearsal room, no longer a 6-day rehearsal week. I think people are going to want to come back from this time where we've been with our families or with our friends or whatever, or with ourselves, like just reading. Like, I think there's going to be a deeper respect for a personal life that I think is going to help the work, actually. I think there's going to be more of a clarity of mind. That's my hope.
Yes, because there's been many organizations, not necessarily theater, I mean, of all sorts of walks or whatever, that would fight this working from home dynamic, and that the employee was not going to be as productive as having, they're behind on the seat in the building. And that thankfully has been, has proven to be wrong, and that people are working even more from home.
I think that's right. I also think this technology will allow us to work smarter. I think about production meetings. If we have artists who don't live in the area, they can zoom in, they can show us designs we can work through. Designers are going to know how to change designs on the fly on their computer on Zoom that we can see. We can take a laptop down to the shop and show them how the set is what the set looks like. Or a costume designer could be zoomed into a costume shop and look at sort of fabrics. I mean, I think my hope is, one, we're never going to lose that sort of like live in person, very sort of rudimentary feeling of theater that is so ephemeral. But I think this technology is going to help us do it better, to some extent, do it cheaper.
Yeah. Which is, again, something that's going to be needed in order to bounce back to whatever thing is waiting for us. And also, the La Jolla Playhouse, and I have it here, so I don't want to chop it or butcher it or whatever. As of September 2nd, La Jolla Playhouse came with an anti-racism action plan. And what I appreciate about this is that you put it up on your website for everyone to see, and it's a 2-pager. So that's good. You can go through it. You can read about it and not have to scroll through a whole manifesto of 50 pages or whatnot, which I'm assuming that this is a working document and things are going to change. And you talk about, I'm just going to mention a few things and then we can dive in. Artistic production opportunities, artistic developmental opportunities, artistic residency opportunities, internship and fellowship, producing practices, which is also a very delicate subject in the theater world, the producing practices as well as representation. Institutional practices as well, yes. So what can you say about this, Eric?
It's a whole other episode. No, I mean, I mean, here's what I will say. When the protests started happening, we all felt like we needed to do something, and I think what I did was I just pulled together the other BIPOC people on staff, because I was like, and honestly, it literally was just to say, how are you doing? What do you need and how are you holding up? And what do we need to think about as an institution? That's where we started. We started with the people of color on staff. And coming out of that, I was like, let's generate a list of things that we just need to think about as an institution. I took that list to Chris and Debbie and the other senior staff that I work with. And I said, here are the things that I'm hearing from our staff that we need to really look at. And that's been the blueprint by which we've sort of gone on this journey. And so pretty quickly after that, we identified a consulting group to work with us to do anti-racism training. This great consulting company called Revolve Consulting, who's San Diego based. We started, they're wonderful. We started AIA, our Accountability and Inclusion Alliance, which is staff driven, run by 2 members of our staff. And I want to say about half our staff is on board for the Alliance. And really what we've been doing is, again, deepening the unpacking of what do we as an institution want to start working on. We're also in the midst of, in that group, creating a vision and value statement, which is going to guide the next step of our action plan and things that we didn't think about for the first step of the action plan. And so it's been a very staff-driven, staff-focused initiative, because if you don't change the core of who you are as an institution, none of this work that we're going to do that's about programming or bringing more diverse artists in, or diverse board members in, will work, because we haven't actually hit to the core of who we are as an institution with the people who work there on a daily basis. And so that action plan is our first step. And what we wanted to do was make accountable statements. We wanted to say, here are the tangible things, the immediate actions we're going to take to start the work. And I'm deeply proud of it. And it's a deeply imperfect document. And it's a document that's going to change, because this work will never end. But we have sort of really dug in and started this work in an exciting way. And the thing that gives me hope is that I'm seeing so much more cross-departmental conversation, not just about this work, this anti-racism work, but about the future of the theater, about things that we should be thinking about when we come back that don't even pertain to anti-racism work. That's the change. That's where change is going to happen, when you start seeing all of those different departments that could get siloed actually having conversations about this core thing, because that's where we're going to hold ourselves accountable internally, is because everybody's on board and everybody actually feels comfortable having a conversation with each other. And we've gone through 3 rounds of training already with Revolve. Our board has started training with Revolve. So we're moving. I mean, it's exciting. Not that there aren't stumbling blocks along the way, with everything. And I'm deeply grateful to We See White American Theater. I think it's really opened up a lot of conversations, not just for us, but sort of around the country. And there are a bunch of things in that document that were crucial. We actually started sort of a lot of our action plan before the document came out, but when that document came out, it opened up a bunch of different things that we hadn't even thought about. And so that idea sharing is important. And I hope that in our own way, this action plan that we're sending out into the world is, info ideas sharing to other theaters around the country too, just as we've been reading everybody else's, who have released an action plan, what they're doing, and it's sparking conversation. And so it is a glimmer of hope that I have
That's good.
for the industry, but I certainly have a lot of hope for us as an institution that we're gonna make these changes finally. And I will say, because the podcast is called From Another Zero, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. Yeah. But, this work isn't starting from zero for us. It's starting from another zero because there have been other people of color on staff who have been pushing to make a lot of this work happen. We have a boss in Chris, bosses in Chris and Debbie who have listened to that, who have also had their own ideas to push this work forward. And we're starting from another zero on the work that all of these people have done. But now we're saying it has to be consistent, it has to be accountable, and we have to keep building on it. We can't just do the same thing we've been saying that we're doing diversity-wise. It has to grow.
I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked you in the beginning with representation, and it's gonna sound like you're responsible when you're not, but it's because you're my guest, and I want to hear what do you think about it? But I need a little context before I ask this question. As people, I've said it here and there, and in the episode 0 of this podcast, I explain a little bit of who I am and what I do, and one of those things is binational consulting, right? Because we're a Mexico States border here, and I do it through the arts, and that's how I met you.
Yeah,
that's how I met you, and I have to say that. Back in the day, which was a while ago, 2003, 2004, La Jolla Playhouse approached me and said, we want to have a conversation where people come over here and present their work, and we want to go down there and see work and just talk to artists, because we're in a border, and I can't believe that we're not doing more of this. So I love that, because we started those conversations a while ago, and it was wonderful and productive, and we brought a couple of plays in Spanish over there, and we just they just let me be in my element, and for that I will always be grateful. With Michael Rosenberg, who was the chief back then. But why do you think, Eric, that it had to happen, a pandemic and a public lynching in order for everybody, to, in speaking of our world, the theater world, because that's what we're focusing on, to start developing new values and new mission statements and the diversity and stuff like that versus doing it always?
Yeah. I ask myself that question every day.
That's why I say I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think about it every day. No, I mean, and it's funny because I am at once grateful for the work that I'm starting to see people do around this, and yet there is part of me that's frustrated that we've been doing this. Some of us have been doing this work for a while, and it never got traction. I think the pandemic leveled everything in its own way. Where we're all home, we're all raw, we're all going through this thing together. And then I think the events that happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, et cetera, those aren't new events. Those have been happening forever. And yet I think because we're all raw, we're all in this place, there's this moment of oh no more of this. And that's exciting, right? I have this fear that fire is diminishing over time as people go back to that place of being desensitized to it. I hope not.
Yes.
It's why we started the work as early as we did, and we said we need to start training immediately, and we said we need to start an alliance where we're holding ourselves accountable, and we need to release our action plan. We're one of the first big theaters out with an action plan. All of those is because we also know we're going to go back into the theater at some point, and then there's a whole set of scary things that we're going to need to face just to figure out how to get an audience and a cast in.
Mm-hmm.
but we've committed to doing this work and we can't lose sight of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we don't do that is doing it now, of laying out the groundwork, of getting the accountability thing out. And I think we as a country, we as people who live in this world, need to start doing that accountability work, because things are going to keep shifting and shaping over time. And I hope we don't lose sight of the passion that was there a couple months ago.
Totally.
And we will, if we don't do real tangible things and things that we are holding ourselves accountable to.
Yeah, accountability.
And I think the challenge is we get busy. We have life things happen.
That too.
And, and some of us can forget it. And me as an Asian American person lives a very different life than somebody who's Black in this country, and like,
mm-hmm.
but there are things that I know that I need to make sure, like, okay, so I'm going to do this every month. I believe in like repetition and structure,
mm-hmm. because
that's how you change something. Our consultants talk a lot about people proofing plans. That's where like that's why our action plan it's literally a list of actions and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of pontificating on the thing. It's like, boom, here are the things we're doing, because that's people proofing the plan.
Yeah,
there's no wiggle room in it.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but yeah, I've had moments of frustration about it. I sit in meetings sometimes with people from around the country, and I think, why haven't you started yet? Time is running out, because you're going to start losing interest
mm-hmm.
in making these diversity changes in your organization.
And there's so much going on in the world.
There's so much, and there's part of me that fears they're just running out the clock. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's funny, when the pandemic started, I was in a conversation with a bunch of different leaders from around the country, and they were like, one of the questions, like, what is your biggest fear? And this is before all the protests started happening. And I said, my biggest fear is we're sitting in a meeting and we were all brought together because we were doing diversity work. And that diversity work's going to go out the window, because the new fear is, how do we keep the doors open, and how do we get an audience back, and how do we sell more tickets, and how do we raise more money? And then the protests hit 2 months later, and I thought, well, you can't not do it anymore.
Yeah.
And now I go, some people haven't started yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And look,
very real.
I'm a person of color working at a predominantly white institution who is very mouthy. So they've got me too. They've got me, and it's not just me. There are nine of us. And the thing that I'm which gives me hope, at least for the organization that I work at, is that it's not just the people of color saying we need to do these things. It's my fellow coworkers who are white, who are like, we need to do this, we need to do this now, we need to set these things up. Have we thought about this? Have we thought about that? And that's where you go, oh, okay, this work is actually sinking in, because I'm not pushing it anymore. And I said it pretty early on. I was like, I can't push it. I'm tired. I can't push it. I'm the one senior staff member of color. I can't take all the calls. I can't tell us where we're going to go. I have ideas. Let's talk about those. But we all need to do this together. And about, pretty quickly, I saw the rest of the staff go, oh, okay. And people start talking up and having ideas and pushing each other. And I thought, oh, okay, it's not just me anymore. This is great. This means we're going to make change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to ask you, because from where we sit, or where we're at, it's something that's been ongoing forever. But we were viewed as mouthy, or, oh, here we go again, or, oh my God, we're doing this. And it was kind of like an eye roll thing. But then also when you discussed it, and it was discussed back, it happened to me, and they said, oh, you think that we're this, and this. I'm like, oh, well, now that you say it, it sounds even worse. And then I would feel self-conscious. And again, I wouldn't know how to, because I've always been mouthy, and I've always gotten in trouble in Tijuana and in Mexico, where I was before. It's not a country thing. It's me, a person thing. Yeah. And so I didn't know. And that's why I'm asking other people like me this question.
Yeah, but it's also, the other thing I will say is I think in this time, because we're talking about it more, there's less tolerance for it. I'm also seeing myself being even more outspoken, and I'm seeing other people of color that I work with, be it at the theater or around at other theaters, be more outspoken. Because I think what we're also doing is we're checking in with each other more. Like I have like weekly, bi-weekly calls with other sort of people in my position who are of color around the country. There are a bunch of us in San Diego who are of color who work at sort of the more predominantly white institutions who have a conversation, every other week. And so there's it's brought us together to support each other and make sure we're okay. That I think has allowed us all to go, okay, I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep making my voice heard in a more direct way. And that's been great.
That's good. And now that we're talking about that from another zero and keeping on hand, what has been your other zero or zeros?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I think about that, I think it goes back to this idea that the work that I've been doing and the work I continue to do didn't start at zero because of the people who came before me. This is like a really big thing I've been thinking about, because there aren't a lot of us of color in the field. And there isn't always a lot of opportunity for mentorship. And so, somebody asked me, like, why do you do this work? And I said, because for a lot of the time in my career, I've walked into a room and been the only person of color, certainly usually the only Asian person. And my hope is that after me, whoever replaces me or gets into these jobs in 10 years doesn't ever experience that again. So that's where I really think about from another zero, is like my place in this legacy of people of color who have worked in this field, who have broken down the doors and the barriers. And those of us who continue to do that, so the next generation of people will continue to do things, but it'll be better from another zero than the zero that the people before me started, or the zero that I started at. I've been really thinking about that sort of like continuum of those of us who work in the field, who don't see a lot of people like us, but probably see more people like us than the people who came before us.
Hopefully that's the
my
case.
hope. That's my hope.
With me, it was that thing that, oh my God, you're on the second floor. You're a Mexican woman working on the second floor, not the first floor or the basement, and it would, instead of making me proud, it would make me pissed. But yes, to your point.
It could be both. We could be both. I have both. I have both sometimes. Pissed and proud. More pissed than proud usually, but yes.
Yeah. And then we ask, and this is something that I love, because I always say it episode after episode, and people, I hope I do, people that listen to every episode, they're like, oh my God, this woman sounds like a broken record, but I say it, for new people that are coming on board and hopefully will stay. This podcast with the suggestions of listeners, starting with the question of From Another Zero, that people would not be very clear on the concept. It was also a way of helping by talking about mom and pop shops and causes that we don't know about. And that's like our little way of continuing to help and spread the word. And I asked you, and you were very formal, and send your
I'm structured. I told you I'm super structured.
I love
structured.
it. And send me your answers in writing. And you say that you have 2 restaurants that you love. Spicy City in Kearny Mesa, and Shawarma Guys in South Park. Tell me about them.
Yeah. Spicy City is my favorite Chinese food place in the city. But you have to, as the name says, it is spicy. So they do this thing called, I'm telling you right now, go get it. It's called deep fried chicken cubes with hot pepper. It is like incredible small pieces of deep fried chicken with a lot of hot peppers all over it. Number one. Number two, they also have something called the Szechuan style spicy fish, which are giant hunks of fish cooked in just with hot chilies. It is my favorite thing.
Do you down it down it with like
No, I
some
don't.
rice or something
Yeah,
that can
do it with
get a
the
little.
rice, get some of the string beans, eat a
Mhm.
good meal. It is really good, but it is authentically hot. So recommendation number one. Recommendation number two is actually a food truck in South Park called Shawarma Guys,
Ooh,
which is parked like right outside a liquor store. But three things to recommend. I love eating. My husband and I love
Me
eating. I'm
too.
telling you, here we go. So they do something called shawarma fries, which is like carne asada fries, but with chicken shawarma.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
Salivating.
incredible.
Uh-huh.
They also have the best falafel in the city. Giant hunks of really delicately fried, moist falafel. And then they do this beef shawarma pita, but with Wagyu beef. And it is like the greatest thing. And they spice too. They give this hot spice dipping sauce, which is I can't recommend it enough. Go both those places, and they're super affordable
Uh-huh.
party meals, really good ingredients, really good mom and pop shops.
Oh, nice. Because in
Those are my two.
Spanish, we say that, when you eat really spicy food, the
Yeah.
invoice comes out elsewhere.
I haven't had that problem.
So
May.
I'll check it out. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you guys in the, in the upcoming episodes.
Yeah.
And then for your cause, you have the 4th District Senior Resource Center and Let America Vote. Oh, yes. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So 4th District Senior Center is a senior center that serves the senior Black community here in Southeast San Diego. I met them, 7 years ago when I worked at the Globe, and we launched Globe for All. Mm-hmm. And I was in charge of finding community partners. And I saw a YouTube video of their line dancers doing a number. And I was like, I need to meet them immediately. And so I met with Rosemary Pope, who's the woman who runs the organization single-handedly, and just fell in love with all of them. And worked really closely with them when I was at the Globe on Globe for All, and they made me line dance with them. I judged like a Easter bonnet competition. I judged a Halloween competition with them. I've had many a Friday fish fry with them.
Oh yes, fish fry.
They're always under-resourced, and they do an incredible job of serving that community. So anything you can give to them, please do. They're remarkable people, be it time or money, etc. They need both. And once you meet Miss Rosemary Pope, you will forever be sort of in her heart. And so that, and then my sort of more national one is Let America Vote. And this is an organization working deeply to fight voter suppression. D.C. Abrams is one of the advisors. We are heading into a very scary period of time, and voter suppression is a very real thing, and this election is going to dictate a lot. So any money people have to donate to end fight voter suppression, please do. Of course, the other thing I will say is, which I didn't write in my email, is that there are a lot of theaters around San Diego. Of course, if you have money and you would like to donate to the Jolla Playhouse, we would appreciate it. But there are a lot of theaters all around San Diego who need help. And so anything anybody can give to any theater they love, they would have my deep, deep appreciation. I want to make sure that we all, not just us at the Playhouse and of course at the Globe, my friends at the Globe, but that we all come back strong when we can come back. And so any donation, again, time, money, whatever, every organization needs it right now.
Yeah. Yes, people, because I mean, these people right here have a job or a part-time or a full-time. Me, I'm just a measly gig worker. So imagine I'm at like the bottom of everything or at the end of everything. So I too want to come back in some sort of way. So yes, thank you for that. And my potato brain.
Wait, and do you have like a whatever? Can people donate to you?
Oh my God, I love it. No, I mean, I haven't thankfully gone that I'm not that bad. Like we say in Mexico, when you're a parrot, everywhere you go, you're going to be green. So I'm doing public relations
Okay.
with a wonderful organization, and we're working on census and humane society. We're working with
Great.
wonderful organizations. I'm not in theater, sadly, but still I'm doing this wonderful work, and I'm
Good.
floating, my friend. I'm floating.
Okay.
So
Good.
that's good.
Floating's better than treading.
Yes, totally. I mean, I do have to do stuff for this podcast that comes out of my own pocket, but that is also my way of establishing another voice, a necessary voice, and a platform for artists and theaters like the one that you work in. So
Great.
So that's enough for me for now. But thank you for asking. And my potato brain, I said 2004. God, no. It was like 2013 or 14 when I came across the La Jolla Playhouse. And it was also Dana Harrell who brought me on board.
Yeah, our dear friend Anna. Yes.
She's wonderful.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to her. Hopefully we can talk to her soon and see what she's up to. Yeah. Very creative woman. So thank you, Eric, for
oh my gosh, anytime
coming along and letting us know what's happening over there and with you and with all these changes, necessary changes, and for being so honest too.
You too. Happy to anytime, Alejandra.
Yay! Well, we're gonna leave all that stuff on there on the episode notes. Please listen, please support, and we will hear each other on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for being on the Zero, and thank you for listening once more. Again, follow us on our Instagram, From Another 00 with Number, Facebook, From Another 00 with Number, and our YouTube channel. And I also want to let you know that we do different things surrounding events like we discussed with Eric, like they do for their shows. We're doing surrounding activities for the podcast, which is uploading these Zoom calls on YouTube so more people can listen to the content or view the content if that is their preference. We're also doing Instagram lives. We just did an Instagram live with Jose Solis, arts critic. And we talked about BIPOC art critics, diversity, racism in theater, and privilege. So that is a wonderful live that we had. We had some interaction with a couple of viewers too. So that's on our Instagram. So we're going to be doing more activities like that. I love my guests, and obviously I am aware of their schedules and their time. So not all of my guests are able to do an episode and an Instagram live. So that's why I'm very grateful to Jose for doing that. We are also doing interviews from Another Zero. Those are exclusively for YouTube. We have one up there with Viet Cadeau, who's a programs manager at the Old Globe Theater. And we talk about her Pam Farr Summer Shakespeare program, Summer Shakespeare Studio program, which is for teens. I think it's 14 to 17, something like that. And we talk about their work and their studio that happened this summer. And we have other interviews from Another Zero coming up. We are working hard. We are working a lot, and we want to bring more types of content to you. So please, that's why I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. If you like it, thank you so much. Share and follow us so we can continue to grow. And if you don't like us or don't like the content, please also let me know so we can continue to learn and grow. My heart is full. Thank you for the response. I see the numbers and I see the comments, and it makes me very happy because I am doing this out as my journalistic need. I am a communications person, and I've been a journalist. I've been a reporter. I'm a reporter. I've been a reporter since I was 16 years old. I love doing it. I love talking to people, and I love bringing this work to you all. So again, thank you so much. And remember that here, we just don't start from zero. We start from another zero. We'll listen to each other soon. Have a great one.